Jai Hind to all. I am Dr. Saroj Kushwah, an assistant professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering in Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Ghaziabad. Today, I'll discuss about monolithic kernel and microkernel. First of all, I explain about the kernel. What do you mean by kernel? In operating system, the kernel is the core software. It is a core software that manages the computer's hardware. The kernel, what are the working? Means the working of kernel is the manage the computer's hardware. It is a core software and provide the crucial interface. It provide the interface means mediator between the hardware and the different applications of a computers. It responsible for managing resources like your memory, CPU RAM, processors and different devices, allowing multiple program to run concurrently or simultaneously and efficiently by the system. The kernel acts as an intermediary, enabling application to interact with the hardware. Key takeaways. The kernel is the heart of operating system. It is also known as a operating system, means it is also in the heart of operating system. It managing the computer's resources and providing a crucial interface between hardware and software applications. The kernel manages process, memory devices, interrupt, file system and networking. It uses means the operating system using different system calls to handle the different requests from the applications or users and manages access to the hardware resources. Means in the what are the means here the discuss about the function of system calls. Means the system calls here the discuss here the function of system calls is to manage access to the hardware resources. It is related to request. Linux kernel are also known for their modular and object-oriented design, which make them adaptable and are extensible. Here I am discuss about the monolithic structure of the operating system. The monolithic operating system is a very basic operating system in which file management, memory management, device management and process management are directly controlled by the kernel. The kernel can access all the resources presented in the system. That means what are the basic function of kernel? Means the basic function of kernel is to access all the resources. Resources means the memory, CPU and their processes, etc. present in the system, through which any request will execute. In monolithic system, each component of operating system is contained within the kernel. The operating system that use monolithic architecture were first time used in 1970s. In the 1970s, the first operating system used the monolithic architecture, which architecture where each component of operating systems is contained within the kernel. The monolithic operating system is also known as monolithic kernel. This is an old operating system used to perform small tasks like batch processing, time sharing, multitasking, multi-programming, etc. The monolithic kernel act as a virtual machines that control all hardware parts. It is different from a microkernel. Means the monolithic kernel is different from the microkernel, which has limited task. In a microkernel doing the limited task, the microkernel is divided into two part, kernel space and user space. Both part means the kernel space and user space communicate with each other through the IPC. IPC means inter-process communications. Microkernel advantages is that if one server fail, then the other server can take control of it. This is the advantage, benefit of microkernel. If there are multiple, means if the multiple servers are using through executions of any process, if the one system fail to execute any process, then the executions of process cannot stop or terminate. Why? Because of the server fail, the same process is executed by the another server and controlled by the another server. The monolithic kernel, a monolithic kernel is an operating system architecture where the entire operating system is working in a kernel space. There are two space, kernel space and user space, means applications space. Means in a kernel space, each applications are connected with the kernel. The monolithic model differ from the other operating system architecture, such as microkernel architecture. There are two types of there are two types of architecture, monolithic and microkernel. So monolithic architecture is different from the microkernel architecture in that it alone defines the high-level virtual interface over the computer hardware. Means high-level virtual interface defined by the monolithic kernel. A set of primitives or system calls implementing by the operating system services, implementing of different operating system services such as process management, concurrency, memory management, etc. The device driver can add it to the kernels as a modules. Means here are device driver which are connected to the kernel as a module. Advantages of monolithic kernel. There are different advantages by using the monolithic kernel. First, the execution of monolithic kernel is quite fast, as the services such as memory management, file management, device management, process scheduling or process management, etc. are implemented under the same address space. Means all the services, there are given different services, means file, memory, process, device, all are managed, means implemented by the same address space. Means here are not given or given to the different address space for executions or management of different memory, file, process, schedulings, etc. A process run completely in a single address space. Means the process, there are not a multiple address space for executions of any process. We use only a single address space to run of any process. In the monolithic kernel is a static single binary file. There are two types of file, static and dynamic. But monolithic kernel is a static single binary file. Disadvantages of monolithic kernel. If any service fail in monolithic kernel, it leads to the failure of the entire system. Second one is the means if any service fail in a monolithic signal, then it leads to failure the entire system. And second one is the entire operating system need to modified by the user to add any new services. If you want to update or add any new services, then user have to do, means it is necessary for any user to modify the entire operating system. Monolithic system architecture. This is the monolithic system architecture. Here is the application. Here are the different applications of operating system in a unprivileged mode, and this is the kernel, means the privileged mode, means the kernel mode. In a kernel mode, here are file system, network subsystem, memory management, process management, drivers. All the means privileged mode. These all are managed by in a monolithic or connected with the monolithic kernel. And here is a hardware. There are two modes used in a monolithic kernel system, unprivileged mode and privileged mode. Here, the monolithic design of the operating system architecture make no special accommodations for the special nature of operating system. Although the design follows the separation of concerns, no attempt is made to restrict the privilege granted to the individual part of operating system. The entire operating system executes with maximum privilege. The communication overhead inside the monolithic operating system is the same as that of any other software considered relatively low. CP/M and DOS are simple example of monolithic operating system. Both CP/M and DOS are operating system that's here. I have here single address space, means all the I have explained about single address in a previous slide that the process execute means or run on a single address space with the applications. In here, the size of single address space is a 16-bit. Start with system variable and applications area. It ends with three parts of the operating system, namely CCP means console command processor, BDOS means basic disk operating system, and BIOS means basic input output operating system. In DOS means disk operating system. In a disk operating means CP and M. Here is 16-bit address space. The address space start from 16-bit, but in DOS means disk operating system, the 20-bit address space start with the array of interrupt vectors and the system variable, followed by the resident part of DOS and the applications area, and ending with the memory block used by the video card and BIOS. BIOS means basic input output system. Advantages of monolithic architecture. The monolithic architecture is simple and easy to implement structure. It is faster execution due to access to all the services. Means faster, means easy to implement. First, the monolithic architecture is easy. It is very easy to implement this structure, means monolithic architecture. And due to direct access, means all the services you can access directly That's why their execution is faster. The disadvantages of monolithic architecture means here are the disadvantage means addition of new feature or removal of obsolete feature is very difficult. Means if you want to add any new features in a monolithic architecture, or if you either you want to remove of any obsolete features from the monolithic architecture, then it is very difficult to add or remove. Security issues are always there because there is no isolation among various servers present in the kernel. Means because of no isolations between the different servers present in a kernel, it creates different security. Microkernel. Microkernel is a minimalist operating system kernel that provides only the essential services like memory management, process management, file management, interprocess communications. Interprocess communications is also known as IPC. All other operating system services such as file, device, and user interface are implemented as user level process, which means they run outside the kernels in privileged mode. First one is a microkernel, and first one is a monolithic, then microkernel. Here is the difference between based on their definition side: speed, basic, security, stability, extensibility, code interprocess maintainability. It is easy maintainable and debug examples. Definition. It is a kernel type that implement an operating system by providing low-level address space management, IPC, and thread management. In a microkernel, it is a type of kernel in which the complete operating system runs at the kernel speed. The size of it is smaller in size. Means monolithic kernel is smaller in size and microkernel is bigger than the microkernel. Speed of monolithic process execution is slower than and the process of execution is faster than the monolithic kernel. Basic, it implements kernel and user services in different addresses space, and monolithic implements both user and kernel services in the same address space. Security, it is more secure than the monolithic kernel. It is less than the microkernel. In a microkernel, a single process failure does not affect other process. In a monolithic kernel, if a service fails, the entire system will fail. A microsystem extensible means code. It is easy to extend. Means extensible. Extensible means microkernel is easy to extend and monolithic kernel is hard to extend. Code. The code of microkernel is necessary to write, and less code is necessary to write a monolithic kernel. Interprocess. The communication between microkernel use the messaging queues to active IPC. The monolithic kernel use single and socket to achieve IPC. Maintainability. It is easily maintainable. Means maintain take extra time and resources in microkernel, but in monolithic kernel use single and socket to achieve IPC. Debug. It is easy. The microkernel is easy to debug, and the monolithic kernel it is hard to debug. Example. The example of microkernel is Symbian, Alpha Linux, Q42, Mac Operating System X, PikeOS, HUD, etc. Linux BSD, So, ladies, operating system 9, DOS, OpenVMS, etc. is the example of monolithic kernel. Microkernel operating system example: microkernel keep only essential functions like IPC, basic scheduling, memory management in the kernel. Other services run in user space, which improve modularity and reliability. Linux, the execution operating system that uses a clean microkernel designs. QNX, a real operating systems used in embedded system like car and medical devices. L4 means it is a family or microkernel used in some mobile and security applications. GNX, hard operating system developed junior project. Monolithic operating system example: monolithic kernel have all core services, file, device, memory management, etc. in a large kernel running in superior mode. Linux, Unix, MS-DOS, Windows 9X. Spooling in batch process. What do you mean by spooling in batch process? This is means another very important topic is most of the time has came in exams means spooling. It is a necessary batch process. Spooling means simultaneous peripheral operations online is necessary for batch multi-programming systems primarily because it helps manage input output operation efficiently. Means it is used, means spooling in batch processing used to efficiently operations, means to perform or manage efficiently different input output program. Why it's important? Spooling is essential in batch multi-programming because it smooth out input output and CPU speed differences, allow overlapping of input output and CPU tasks, support job queuing and scheduling, improve overall system efficiency and resource utilization. Um, Thank you.